Hey everyone. Welcome to Dangerous Werewolf. Are you brave enough to step into the perilous world of werewolves with me? Here, we'll uncover the secrets, face the fears, and explore the thrilling and dangerous aspects of these mythical creatures. So, hold on tight, and let's start this wild adventure together. Chapter 33, Alex. Lunch had passed and I currently sat in gym on the bleachers next to Amber, waiting for the class to start. Funny how I didn't have gym before my whole schedule changed. And neither did she, huh? All right, you lot, the coach yelled, stepping up to the bleachers. I know you've all had a long and lazy break, so I'm supposed to get you all back up and moving. I smirked, knowing lazy was the last thing my break was. Isn't getting to school an achievement of moving, as it is? A guy in the back asked. The class laughed at his comment. Sure, in your books, but knowing that very few of you actually did anything, it is now my sole purpose to get you going. So, what better way to do that than? She paused to throw a rubber ball at a guy who was on his phone. He looked startled as hell when it hit his shoulder. Then a wonderfully good game as capture the flag. There was a series of whoops and yes throughout the class. It was interrupted with curiosity when one of the administrators came in with another kid. The man handed the coach a slip of paper, which in return she handed back, and looked at the kid. He was built in the exact way that I was afraid of. Werewolf, Xavier said cautiously. Not good. Odd. He doesn't smell of rogue, yet he doesn't smell like a pack wolf either. Gypsy, perhaps, would smell like what was our brother-in-law. No, he carries almost no scent except what is coming from his own self. Freshly turned. Perhaps. Have you listened to anything Adam has taught you? I just shrugged and blocked him out for the moment. All right, everyone. Coach began, interrupting my thoughts. This here is Blake. Want you all to give him a warm welcome and no funny business. More laughter when the guy in the back whined a little. Blake simply gave the guy in the back a blank look. When he did so, I caught sight of his eyes. They were that strange type of blue, almost like they had a constant storm raging on within them. He wore a tight black tee with a pair of dark blue jeans, and I had to admit that he looked quite fit. One girl whistled quietly to her friend. Hope that piece of me is single. I rolled my eyes, looking over at Amber. Unlike all the other girls in the class, she wasn't giving him a dreamy, I'd look thank the moon gods, but instead, she was just giving him a curious look. Almost like she was trying to pin him down mentally to a board and get a good look at him. What are you getting? I asked her quietly. Nothing. At all. It's strange and Jackie is going crazy with worry. I scooted over a little, placing my arm around her waist. Amber let out a small sigh of relief. Thanks, she muttered. I simply gave her a nod before returning my attention back to the coach as she was shouting orders once more. Alex. Before you to get any closer, you're both team captains. I was about to smile widely when she finished. Of opposite teams. Let's see how well you two can get along without sucking each other's faces off. Another round of laughter from the crowd. I rolled my eyes and gave Amber a wink. See you at the victory line, babe. Oh, do you plan on running second again? She shot back playfully. Oh, you're on. I set my bag down on my side of the room, rolling my shoulders to try to loosen them up. I still had Adam's special training lessons after school, and the exercises seemed to be leaving me in a sore state more often than not. However, I was becoming less sore and more stiff. You owe me dinner. Now, Amber said, coming up behind me and wrapping her arms around my waist. Is that so? Yup, my team won capture the flag, so you owe the team captain, which is I, a dinner. I smiled, rolling my eyes. All right, fair enough. You're just lucky you had that Blake kid on your side. The guy fights like the devil. I felt her tense at his name. Hey, I said, turning around to face her, narrowing my eyes. Are you okay? Amber shrugged. I don't know. It was just something about that guy I don't like. Well, nothing personal. But Jackie can't stand him, almost like he's some kind of deadly rogue. I nodded a little. Okay. How about I ask Adam to get someone to look into it? Would that help? I hope, she replied, resting her head on my chest. Is it bothering you that much? It's like it. I furrowed my eyebrows in thought. Neither Xavier or I liked the thought of our mate feeling so stressed without some reason, so it would probably be best to do something about it. And fast. Instead, I kicked her up bridal style and carried her out of the room. Whoa, she squealed a little. Where are we going? To dinner. I have the perfect place, I said with a wink. If that's the case, then you two lovebirds might have to wait, Sylvia interrupted, walking up to us with a grim expression on her face. What happened? I asked, setting Amber down, the playful feeling gone in a heartbeat. Sylvia looked down sadly. It's Jack. He came back from patrol. We have some problems on our hands. We quickly walked to the living room where we found Jack laying back on the couch while his mate tended to a lot of scratches and claw marks that lay on his shirtless torso. Some wounds had started to close already and there was bruising all across his body. Great moon goddess. Jack, what happened to you? I asked, walking up to him. He tried to sit up to face me better, but Sierra quickly pushed him down with a low and worried growl. Rogues? I took a few of the other pack mates and went on a quick patrol around the border. I don't know why, but my wolf, Cayendor, has been acting up real bad. Last time this happened was before the last rogue attack, so I decided he was cut off as he sucked in another painful breath when Sierra applied something to his skin. Sorry, she muttered softly. He only held her hand tighter. Before going on, I decided to head towards the northwestern side of our territory, since we haven't been that way in a while, and went through the woods there. We met up with a few of our pack members in the area, and they said that they had thought that some had smelled rogue, but it was too faint to be for sure. Once we got there, they were on us in an instant, more rogues than I have seen in a long while. Why didn't you call us in? Adam asked, growling slightly. You could have been killed. This got a painful whine from Sierra. I grimaced at the scene but looked back to Jack. Why didn't you call us? I asked the question again, softly. Luckily, I got the worst of it. The majority of them were ill, trained, and didn't seem to know what they were doing, the rogues. That is, I was cornered at one point while they got to me, but I was lucky that there were more of us around. Everyone got to me fast, but there were so many there that I still got hit pretty hard. How many do you think there were? Amber asked. At least a couple dozen or so. The weirdest part was that they didn't even smell rogue. I only knew it because the smell was there, but almost like it was a cheap perfume that had worn off. They looked even better than that. That's because they weren't rogue, Tobias said, entering the room. I half expected to see my sister with him, but he appeared to be alone this time. What are you talking about? They are a pack that's made to look like rogues. Smell like them. Slater called them his hit squad. Slater? I asked, looking at the tall wolf. Slater was the beta to the alpha that I was under. Long story short, he works for the man that is trying to get Amber. Amber let out a sigh of exasperation, her hands tugging at her hair. Again, with the guy wanting to take me. I mean, seriously, why me of all people? You're the alpha's daughter. They want power. Tobias put simply, but aren't there other alpha daughters they could worry about? Not when your father is the alpha to the largest pack on this side of the continent, Paige commented, walking in next to her mate. What? Was everyone's response, looking between her and Amber. The she-wolf nodded grimly, then looked at Adam. The Moon, Set Pack, Alpine Pack, Roosevelt Pack and Sea Rive Pack have sent in a treaty to the Council. They've lost large numbers to this, and have joined up with one another. The news just came in this afternoon. A friend of mine from the Alpine Pack claims that her pack has dwindled from the initial 1,000 to just under 400, but that carries from Maine to the plains, and Alpine was most of Alaska and Canada. He said, his eyes growing wide. Alpha Adam. The Council cannot even seem to comprehend what is going on. Something bigger than just a few rogues teaming up. For some reason, even the hunter problem is getting out of control. Emmett called in this morning warning us that there was a group of hunters the size of Mikolay's pack back in Russia. Nikolay? I asked Amber quietly. Nikolay is the alpha to the pack in Russia. Very large, very deadly. She explained. So this Slater guy and his alpha are working with a huge amount of rogues and hunters to do what? Create their own pack. One that is in control of the whole planet. Jack said. Healed enough to sit up. How do you figure? I asked. I heard them talking. Hell. One practically snarled in my face. He said your time has come to an end, and soon it will be your kind that is hunted. Perfect. That makes a hell of a lot more sense, I said sarcastically. Actually, it explains why he wants Amber, Tobias said bluntly. Earning a growl from yours truly. How so? Adam asked. Tobias turned to Amber. Because of all of this, your dad is now the alpha to the biggest pack. All the others are now incredibly smaller. And some, he looked back to Adam, want to team up with you. A temporary truce between us all in order to get rid of these rogues. This team up, thus being said, Paige continued, looking at my May again. You're the future Luna to the largest pack on this side of the world. Of course, we don't know how Africa is doing along with some European packs. And who knows what the Chinese are up to. South America only has little packs scattered here and there. Put it all together. And bada bing, bada boom. You're practically the werewolf queen to this side of our messed up world. That's why he wants me. She asked quietly. Yup, the two mates replied. Amber leaned into my side with a deep sigh. And your Jackie was worried about Blake. Tobias's head snapped up at that. Blake, some new kid at our school, I explained. Her wolf has been going crazy with worry since he showed up. Kid about, scruffy blonde hair and storm gray eyes. He asked casually. I looked up at my brother-in-law. You know him or something? Shit. Yes, I know the little punk-ass bastard. He's not a teenager. Well, which? Well, sorta not. He was cursed by his pack switch to look young. His job is to find what his alpha wants, and get them to trust him before taking them to him. He's the tick of the pack. Tick like Masek. A flea kind of tick. Jack asked. Tobias shook his head. TIC. Third in command. I second your shit, I said, running my hand over my face. So what does all of this mean? I asked after a silence. What are we going to do about it? Everyone turned to Adam, who looked deep in thought. Adam, his mate asked, gently resting a hand on his forearm. He looked up at all of us. All right. First, I'm putting down a curfew. No one outside after dark unless with detrained warriors. All children and elders are to be watched at some point during the day. And I need to triple the patrols. We have enough to do so. And I want them tight. Any sign of anything that even grazes the title rogue, I want word of. He turned to Amber and I. You two are to always have eyes on one another. Amber, he may be trying to get to you, but he might even use Alex to do so. If you two want to go somewhere into town or anywhere besides school, or either of the homes in pack territory, I want 3 other people with you. It can be Jack and Sierra, or other friends, but 2 of the 3 must be trained and know how to fight. Am I clear? He concluded, using his alpha tone. Yes, Alpha, Amber said. I of course still didn't feel much power coming off of it, but I chose to say so anyway. Hey, I was with his daughter and I'm pretty sure he's threatened me. Okay. I've lost count of how many times. As for everyone else, he continued, I want every wolf that has to begin training to do so at once. Training in combat within human and wolf form will be sped up. I want everyone ready for an attack at any time. Sir, Jack said, looking at him. You sound like we're going to war. He nodded. They make it sound like that's what they want. Well, if they want war, then it's war they will get. Dismissed. He told everyone, and we all went our separate ways. except for Jack and Sierra, who were still on the couch. Once back in our room, I looked down at Amber, who seemed kind of dazed. I pulled her into my arms, squeezing her tightly. "Hey," I said, nuzzling my mark. "You'll be okay. I promise. I won't ever let anything happen to you." "I know, she said quietly. "But it's still so surreal. Even if we make it through all of this, then I'll be the Luna to the biggest pack around here. It's just such a startling thought." "I can imagine," I said, sitting us down on the bed. She looked up at me. "I can barely seem to imagine what it must be like for you. You've been a werewolf for less than a month. I don't know how you're still relatively sane." I smiled. "Well, bitch. Let's see. I've got some amazing friends helping me out. I have my parents to thank for raising me to just go with the flow. Trust me, knowing them, that's one thing they know how to teach. I have Xavier, which although he drives me insane, he's still pretty helpful when I need him the most. And then, I've got you, the most amazing girl in the world who will always stick by my side no matter what." I have to say, when I put it all into perspective like that, it counters out all the shock and negatives in my life. She laughed a little, pushing her body closer to mine. "When the time comes, you're going to make an amazing alpha." "You think so?" "I know so," she said, before kissing me again, her hands running up the underside of my shirt. "You sure you're not on heat now?" I asked playfully. "2 nights in a row." She rolled her eyes. "Just 'cause I want to feel up my sexy mate means we're gonna do it." "Oh, so I'm sexy now, am I? Shut up and kiss me," she said, pushing her lips against mine. I kissed her back, pushing my body flush against hers. Her soft moan of a reply had my wolf purring in contentment. She pushed her hands further up my shirt and pulling herself impossibly closer to me. I smirked in satisfaction as I kissed my mark, her body shuddering beneath mine. "You're such a tease," she whispered in my ear. I nipped the mark, getting an even sexier moan from her. "It takes one to know one." "Babe." She practically ripped my shirt off and smothered my face in kisses, all the while grinding against me. "Okay, maybe again wouldn't be so bad." I smirked. "Anything for you, my love," I said, sealing it with a wink. "Great goddess, this girl will be the death of me." Thanks for reading. Don't forget to comment, vote, share with friends, squeal, and do a "holy crap, this is awesome" kind of dance. Whatever floats your boat. DKE Drick Chapter 30 for Amber. "This is too damn early," I said, getting dressed to go train. My dad decided that it was a good idea to have everyone wake up at 5 in the morning so we can all be on the practice field at 6. And also still have time to get ready for school. "Stop complaining and get dressed," Alex teased. I growled at him and threw one of his shoes at him. He yelped as it hit him in the chest. "Violent woman," he said, rubbing where it hit him. I stuck my tongue out at him and finished putting my belt on. "Well, this is what happens when I get woken up early. I need my sleep." "Note taken. Now let's go before we are late," he said, grabbing my hand. I'm coming." Once we made it to the field, my dad started talking. "Okay. I'm glad all able are here to start training. We cannot take this threat from this pack a joke. It needs to be taken seriously. This crazy leader wants my daughter and he isn't having her. So let's start training. Everyone grab a partner." My dad finished. "My lady, would you like to be my partner?" Alex asked, bowing. I laughed. "Yes, I would, kind sir." "You two are so strange," Jack said, walking over to us with Sierra. "He started it." I pointed. Alex smiled and grabbed my hand, bringing me into him. "Let's practice," he said. I nodded. "Can we please start at the archery?" Please, I begged, giving him the puppy dog eyes. He sighed and smiled. "I can't say no to you." I jumped up and hugged him. "Great, let's go," I said, running over to them. "Geez, girl. Slow down," he said, catching up to me. "Well, maybe you should just run faster." I shot back with a smile. He shook his head laughing and got his bow and arrow ready. He pulled back and aimed. His arrow shot forward and I snorted when it flew right over the target. He growled at my reaction and tried again. This time his arrow landed a few feet from the base of it in the grass that surrounded the target cubes. His growl of annoyance grew louder when his next landed on either side. "I'm gonna need your man card," I said, trying to stop laughing. "Excuse me for not having grown up with the sport." He growled, clearly offended. This is only my second time ever doing it. I shook my head in amusement and pulled my arrow back. I let it go and watched as it hit a bullseye. His annoyance was only making my accuracy feel like a huge achievement. "I think you're just a bad shot," I said with a smirk. "I'm better with firearms." He pouted. "Fine. When we are done here, we can go to the guns. Then I'll see if you can have your man card back." He growled and tried again. When he let go, the arrow nicked the side of the target but fell to the ground. "Don't you dare laugh," he growled, grabbing another arrow. I put my hands up and grabbed another arrow. Alex let out a growl when mine hit the middle of the target again. I was about to grab another arrow, but Alex grabbed my bow out of my hand and grabbed my other hand while dragging me somewhere. A was on a roll. "And where are we going?" I asked, trying to get my hand loose. "I'm going to firearms," he mumbled. "No point in you practicing something you're clearly capable of." Okay. This time, I couldn't hold my laughter in. It was just a funny, yeah, laugh it up, he said. "Okay, I'm done," I said when we finally got to the guns. "How was the archery?" "Amber," my dad asked, coming over to us. "Good," I smiled. "Got a bullseye twice. The other ones?" my dad asked, raising an eyebrow suspiciously. "Those were the only two that I got to shoot, mister. Grumpy Pants over here missed on all of his, so he dragged us over here to hopefully get his man card back," I said, pointing to Alex, who was too busy loading a pistol. Even my dad busted out laughing. "That's great," he said. "It's okay, Alex. Not every man can shoot an arrow." Alex glared at him and turned around to start shooting the targets like he was born doing so. And he thought I was the show off. "So how are you coping with all of this?" my dad asked, putting a hand on my shoulder. "It's weird, I guess. Like, I don't think it's fully sunken in yet, but it probably will soon. I mean, it's not every day you hear that you are probably the queen of werewolves on this side of the world, and some kid, or adult, or whatever you want to call him, is at my school, and some crazy psychopath is trying to kidnap me, and they want me so I can give them little evil pup things. And why can't they just pick some other alpha's daughter and breathe, Amber?" my dad said, rubbing my back. "Shit, I think it finally sunk in." "I think so too," my dad said, letting out a small chuckle. Here, sit down on the grass." I sat down next to my dad and looked down at my hands. I can't believe this is actually happening. Like yesterday. I was just hearing it and not wanting to believe it. And when I woke up this morning, it would all be a bad dream. But now I actually know this is all real. I took a big breath. I'm not ready for this. My dad gave me a smile and pulled me into his side. "It's okay, Amber. If it makes you feel any better, your mother is going crazy. Like, even worse than you. She wouldn't go to bed last night. She has been thinking of ways to purge these guys her. And I'm the alpha. Well, I'll wet. Soon I won't be. But still, she was going crazy. What if they do get me?" "Dad," I asked, scared for the answer. "They'll do it over my corpse," Alex said, sitting down next to me. He grabbed my hand and I looked up at him. "Amber, you have this entire pack that is willing to risk their lives for you because they know that you would do the same. We will protect you. And you are a strong girl. I know you will kick ass. But we are going to protect you and let nothing happen to you. What if something goes wrong?" "Nothing will go wrong." Why is he laughing at a time like this? "How do you know?" I questioned him. "Because I'm going to be with you 24/7. And don't forget your 3 guards that your dad is making you have." I laughed and looked at my dad, who just gave me a sheepish smile. He's right. I'm not letting you leave anywhere without Alex and 3 other guards, my dad said, trying to be stern. I wouldn't suspect anything less from you. I smiled. He gave me a nod of approval, almost like saying, I know. I'm always right. I rolled my eyes. And besides, Adam is having guards watch that weird kid. Or adult. Or whatever person. Alex said. That Blake guy? My dad asked. Yep, that's the one. He's really built too. Are you worried he's stronger than you? I teased with a smirk. Hell no. I mean seriously. Who has bigger guns than me? Alex smirked, flexing. Sexy. Jackie growled in approval. Well, I started, but Alex cut me off. Don't finish that sentence. I held up my hands and laughed. That kid is strange from what I heard from Jack and Sierra. Adam said, looking at everyone as they are training. His presence is weird and unnatural. His stare is like you're breathing toxic gas. And I get the chills whenever he's around. I noted. That's what I got from him. Alex confirmed, squeezing my hand a little. My dad stood up and stretched. We better get back to training. Now be ready for tomorrow, guys. We'll be training in wolf form. My dad smiled. I swear, you are having too much fun with this or something. Alex said, helping me stand up. Let's just get this over with so I can get ready for school. I said, reaching for a rifle. How people in the town close to their pack aren't hearing all the gun shots and training is beyond me, haha. Werewolf magic maybe. Anyway, love ya guys. Ost on chapter 35. Alex. It was a Friday evening when my body gave out on me. Now, most people don't appreciate Fridays until you're in a position like me. You have worked your mind and every muscle in your body until nothing within you is left with any energy. Then, you push yourself beyond your limits. And at some given point, your body literally gives in. Don't ever remember a time when we were this tired. Xavier wind. As I fell back onto the soft grass. Adam had us training in what I've been told are 2 a days. A very early morning training. And one after school. To top that off, midterms had already begun. And the teachers were cramming it in us like there was no tomorrow. To top all of this, Adam had me taking private courses about being an alpha. And that now included battle tactics. Is that enough? Amber didn't seem to think so. Along with this, she got so fed up with seeing me miss on stupid archery that she made it her personal goal to teach me. That meant an extra 2 hours after training was over. Though I couldn't complain too terribly since it was still alone time with her. If you don't get at least proficient on every fighting skill, how can you know what to expect from your opponent? Amber had asked me at one point. Back in freshman year, I had played football. The coach was ruthless in practice, but it kept me in great shape and had even taught me mental discipline. Then seemed easy compared to the work I had put in this last month. The only reason I was able to take a break now was that Adam had ordered it. I may have been a machine, but even machines needed the energy to work. On roughly 50 hours of sleep this month. Not even the piles of food I had been ordered to eat have kept me on my feet. After learning some more sword, play, and being knocked down a few dozen times, Adam seemed to see that I just couldn't hack it at the given moment and gave me a break. Sadly, I still had another 2 hours of practice. No, you don't, Amber said, sitting next to me. How you don't have another 2 hours left? I looked at her. Did I say that aloud? She nodded. Yup, and I'm making you take the rest of the day off. I'll talk to my dad about it. I shook my head, wincing as I sat up. No, I just need a quick break. Then I'll be right up to it again. She placed a hand on my chest and pushed me down with ease. I mean it. Alex. Hell. I'm not sure half of me feeling tired is even me. I'm pretty sure I'm feeling a lot of it come from you. And if that's the case, you need to relax. If I relax now, I won't be ready, I said stubbornly, trying to get up again. You were there, trying. I tried to sit up, but I ended up just falling back on the grass. Great moon goddess, it felt soft. If you don't relax now, You'll be too tired to fight if this attack does happen. My mate reasoned, laying her hand on my chest. I growled a little, trying to sit up again. Nope, nothing. Amber laughed, shaking her head in amusement at me. I don't think I'll ever know what keeps you trying so much. A lot of people would have given up by now. I'm not like most people. At this point, I was able to prop myself onto my elbows. Alex, you're beating even some of our finest wolves. What has you driving so hard to do that? I didn't say anything, still trying to sit up. I mean, here I'm even telling you to stop your worried maiden you, I said bluntly, finally being able to sit up. She cocked her head at me. What? You asked me what has me driving so hard. Me, she asked, looking a little surprised. I gave her a deadly serious look. Amber, one of the reasons we're in this is because that bastard of an alpha thinks that he can take you from me. If he even gets close to you, I will lay my life down on the line in a heartbeat. I will defend you with every breath I have in me. I leaned near her a little. If I cannot give every bit of this 110% now, then I won't be able to give it my all if it ever comes to that. Because not giving it everything I have, and then some, is unacceptable in my books, especially when it comes to you. Amber was quiet as I chose to lay back down, rubbing my face in my hands. If I can't give that for you, I muttered, then I just don't deserve you. It all seemed quiet, the wind starting to rustle the trees a little. There was a vague sound of metal hitting metal in the training arena across the large clearing and a few barking commands from the drill instructors. It was almost peaceful despite the impending doom that seemed to lay quietly over our heads. A pair of arms wrapped around my neck, holding me tightly. I don't want you to be afraid of losing me, Amber said softly. I put my arms around her and held her tighter to me. Can't help it. If it's not me, then it's my wolf. And the minute it's not him, then it's me. I just want this whole thing to be over and done with. My mate gave me a warm smile. Well, how about for the rest of the day? It is. We won't have to worry about any of that stuff until tomorrow. I chuckled, groaning as I sat up. I just might have to take you up on that offer. I'm not sure I can even hold my own weight, let alone us or doorbell. Then let's head inside. Ah, now where are you two going? I heard Jack ask as he walked over to us. To bed, was my only response. We still have, Amber growled at him, pushing me along. Yes, we're heading inside. Do tell my dad, won't you? He simply shrugged but nodded. Okay. Later, once we were inside our room, I limped over to the bed and collapsed face first into it, not even caring that I hadn't an rest or anything. Amber simply sat next to me. You just going to sit there? I asked, rolling my head to the side to look at her. She shook her head. Actually, I was going to wait until you started snoring, then prove to you that you do snore really loudly. I groaned. After this hell, I deserve to snore as much as I want. Amber impassively looked around the room. So you're going to sleep on the couch for how long? Shut up. I'm just saying. Just because you're tired doesn't mean I am. Just because you're tired doesn't mean I am. I mocked, rolling onto my back. How are you not? She simply shrugged. I'm not a work fanatic like you are. Very funny. I gave her a tired scowl, feeling my eyes close. The last feeling was Amber kissing my cheek before leaving the room. Darkness seemed to seep into the land as the sun nestled its way into the horizon, leaving everything a deep hue of orange and red. The shadows climbed their way up the trees and rocks of the silent forest, warning the creatures of the nocturne that was to follow shortly. It was deathly quiet. The wind did not stir. The birds did not sing their last goodbyes of the day, and the crickets seemed to be hidden in a different world. Or perhaps the world was different. However, I could hear one thing. My own labored breathing cut into the silence forcefully as I found myself standing near a bizarre formation of rocks that lay at the base of a steep cliff. I was injured, but I couldn't tell from where. I just knew that there was pain and suffering, and Xavier wasn't there to help. I was human again. I could feel it. I spun around repeatedly, clutching my body like a madman, calling out someone's name. I couldn't tell whose name it was. I had no memory of this person's name. It wasn't right. It wasn't familiar. It was distant and there was no association with it. But I kept calling it like it was the lifeline to my drowning form. She is gone. A voice hissed around me. No. I cried, feeling angry and violent toward the voice. You're wrong. I will find her. Fool. She will never come back to you. She is cold as ice and lying as still as stone in the hell that you brought upon her. I did nothing. You took her. There was a disgusted sneer in the voice. You only had to give me what was mine, and this would have never happened. You brought it upon her and yourself. I will find you. If not in this life, then the next. I will see to it that you are splintered from your world and spend eternity in hell. The form appeared in front of me, looking like amber. It couldn't be. The form seemed to shift repeatedly as a blade suddenly appeared in my chest. My vision seemed to flicker like a candle losing its flame in the wind. You will die here, and I'll piss on your rotting corpse before mounting your head on your pack store. I'll obliterate every one of them and let their blood serve as a reminder to the others as to who they're dealing with. I'll take feast on your men, tarnish your women, and torch your children. And only after every last one has perished, only then will I find you in the next life and do it all over again. You have betrayed me, and you will now pay the price for eternity until your soul rots in aspiration and buries itself in whatever cold hole it thinks it can use to hide from me. Emotions that I couldn't explain seemed to flood through me. Immense fear and anger, frustration and sorrow, rage and hatred. Above all, the sight seemed to flicker a blood red as the absolute craving to latch my teeth around the being's neck took over. And then black silence. I'm coming for you. Xavier. Prepare to face your hell. Just who the hell are you? Xavier. Sounds like you might have done something bad. Anyway, thanks for reading. Kaid Rick Chapter 36 Amber. I was helping my mom in the kitchen with a few pies she was baking to bring to some of the couples that had lived in other houses on the territory. We made some and brought them over to pack mates every now and then to check in and see how everyone was doing, as well as use it as a way to be close with everyone. Our pack was a family after all. I had been chopping up some peaches for her famous beach pie when a sudden flood of emotions hit me like a ton of bricks. The knife fell from my grasp as I doubled over, feeling like the wind was knocked out of me. Jackie. I cried out to her, confused and worried. I could barely hear my mom asking me what was wrong. Mate. Go to mate now. I managed to stumble my way out of the kitchen and down the hall, ignoring my mom's questioning. My vision seemed to become spotty, like I was going to faint. A force on my body and mind making me feel like I was going through my first shift all over again. The door was partially open when I got to my room, so I had little trouble pushing it open. My eyes found their way to Alex and I knew something wasn't right. He was writhing on the bed as if in immense pain, a soft whine coming from him. Xavier. I could hear my wolf cry. I limped over to the bed and placed myself next to Alex, my wolf guiding me to grab his arms and place them around me. Almost immediately the pressure and pain had ceased, allowing me to breathe freely. Great goddess, what was that? I mentally sighed to Jackie. I only got a quiet whimper in return, causing me to worry even more. Alex, wake up, I said a little forcefully, shaking his shoulders. His eyes opened, but it wasn't him. I could tell his wolf was the one in the driver's seat. You're here, he breathed, as if in disbelief. I knitted my eyebrows in question. Xavier, I've just been with my mom in the kitchen. What's wrong? He just pulled me into a bone-crushing hug. I could only awkwardly rub his back. It's okay. I'm not going anywhere. No, never again. What? I was so confused. Again, I didn't get a response. We stayed like that for a few minutes before I could feel my arms start going numb. Xavier, I love you and all, but I'd love you more if I could feel my arm again. A snore followed my comment. I rolled my eyes and somehow managed to pry myself from his grip before shaking him again. All right. Alex, I need you to wake up now. It only took a second before he woke up again. This time his eyes were their normal darker color, What's wrong? He managed through a yawn. I breathed a sigh of relief, but Jackie was still restless. Get up. I'm taking you to Sylvia. What? Why? I yanked him up. Just come with me. His vitals are fine. His breathing is normal. Nothing seems off in any way. I frowned in mild annoyance. I can see that. But what the hell made me feel like I was about to implode? Alex shot me a worried look and I knew I had needed to fill him in a while. Sylvia turned to Alex, clicking her tongue. Alex, have you ever had a history of night terrors? He made, looking uncomfortable for a moment, yes. The doctor nodded a little, then pulled something and began writing on it. Sometimes newly mated wolves like yourselves can pick up on the other's stronger emotions without having to guide it through the mate bond. Of course, all werewolves have this with their mates, but dreams can be hard to control for a little while. She turned to me. That being said, you were probably going through what Alex felt during his night terror. I was a little disappointed that Alex hadn't told me before that he had night terrors. I felt like he would have told me, seeing as how we were mates and all, but I didn't want to push. I've heard that people that have night terrors don't tend to tell anyone. If you experience the same issue again, come back and I can look into finding some ways of dealing with it. Sound good? We both nodded. Sylvia smiled and walked out to her next patient. I walked over to the bench and sat next to him, started stroking his arm. Jackie made a purring noise at the feeling of him and being near him. She wanted to comfort him as much as I did. He reached an arm around my shoulders and pulled me in close next to him. You okay? He nodded. I will be. I gave him a look. What was that dream of yours about? I don't want to talk about it. I tried not to take it personally. After all, it was just a dream, though Jackie did feel a little annoyed. Alex must have felt my unease, for he looked back up at me with a reassuring smile. I'll tell you later. Promise. Right now, Xavier is too on edge. I'm kind of worried about what might set him off right now. I may face. I'd assume me being here would help. That's what I thought. I'm glad you are. Don't get me wrong. Xavier is just. He trailed off, not looking to shore himself. After a moment of silence, he shook his head and smiled tiredly. Come on, let's head back to bed. We've another early rise tomorrow. I nodded and happily walked with him back to our room. I was still concerned, but as long as he was all right at that moment, I would wait until he'd open up the rest to me. Chapter 37. Alex. No, I have to seriously disagree with that, I said, waiting at the drive-through to McDonald's. There is no way in hell that Twilight is accurate to the supernatural world. After spending a good half hour trying to convince me to take her out for coffee, I finally gave in. Even if her choice of Joe was McDonald's, at least she's easily pleased. Amber scoffed. Are you kidding? You have been a part of it for how long? Oh no, I said, pointing a finger at her. You are not pulling that card on me. And besides, your dad has been teaching me a lot. She muttered something about her dad under her breath, low enough to where even my enhanced hearing couldn't make it out. And if there was a single accurate movie, the best one so far is The Mortal Instruments. It portrays vamps the way they should. And last I looked, I may be large, but my wolf isn't that large. Amber rolled her eyes as I paid the person at the window and grabbed our food. And McDonald's. Really? You have me paying for whatever you want and you chose this place. Her eyes wide and a little. You shouldn't have said that, huh? Now you're gonna be taking me to an expensive Starbucks instead of this. She squealed. I rolled my eyes. Whatever you say. Love. Exactly. You're still not royalty. Last I looked, I was. I am the daughter of the biggest alpha on this side of the hemisphere. And that's something to be proud of. Why wouldn't it be? I sighed a little. Is it really worth it? Knowing how many have already perished. I could see her shoulders sag out of the corner of my eye. You're probably right. Damn, why do you have to keep putting a damper on things? I took a glance at her, before putting my hand on her thigh. Sorry, I don't mean to. I'm just worried. After all the weird things going on, I'm a bit on edge a lot. Amber rubbed my arm soothingly, and I sent her a grateful look. Don't be too worried. Our pack is pretty big and pretty kick-ass, she assured me with a smile. I nodded. I know. I continued driving, glancing in the mirror to see the same pack vehicle behind me. I smiled when I remembered Amber freaking out a little bit following us. I laughed hard when I saw that Jack was in the passenger seat, but for some reason, Xavier was still feeling restless. Hey, bro, what's up? I don't know. It's just weird. I know something is going to happen, Alex. I just know. He cut off and took over before I had the chance to react. My arm shot out and knocked the coffee out of Amber's hand, and was lucky enough to hit it out of the window instead of all over Amber. Alex, what the hell? She exclaimed, looking at me like I grew a second head. Xavier didn't respond as we pulled off to the side of the road. I tried to find out what was up with him, but he was just as unresponsive. Instead, he took of Amber's seatbelt as well as my own and pulled her onto our lap, burying his nose in her neck. Too close, he muttered, holding our mate tight in our arms. Way too close. Xavier, Amber said softly, rubbing my back. What happened? The drink. It was poisoned. What do you mean it was poisoned? How could you even tell? Adam asked me. I had driven home and immediately started pacing, Amber looking more confused than ever. Adam had asked what had happened, and Amber had quickly filled him in. I don't know. And Xavier is still unresponsive to me as ever, I said in frustration. I felt him worried before, but he's going mad over here. Jack came back into the room after he found part of the coffee on the side of the road. Hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but Alex was right. Coffee was laced with wolfsbane, liquid silver, and strychnine. Don't know how it worked its way into a fast food drink order, but Tobias is checking in on that right now. Strychnine. Strychnine used to be used as a form of wolfsbane used to kill were foxes, Sylvia explained, walking into the room behind Jack. They tend to be rare these days, but in the past, that was what it was used for. Now mixed with silver, it forms a chemical that dampens the body's natural method of creating pheromones, or a scent. In this case, the wolfsbane is just an added insurance. She looked over at me. You're lucky your wolf caught that, or Amber here wouldn't exactly be sitting up. Quite possibly, she would be dead. I looked over at my mate and gently rubbed her back. She seemed a bit taken aback, but also looked like she wasn't as shook up as I was. Adam looked at me and motioned for me to follow him out of the room. Look. Sylvia informed me about this whole heat problem of hers, and with your night terrors coming back, I've been thinking about some other things too. I gulped a little but was sure that I held my posture and facial expression relatively emotionals, just enough to show respect. Because of this, he continued, running his hands through his hair. It's just made it more obvious. My old friend, Emmett, has a cabin somewhere up north on some uncharted lands. He was up there recently and said that except for a few human towns, it was practically deserted, until I get a couple of things sorted out. I want you to take Amber up there. Emmett and his mate will stop by and pick you up tomorrow. I nodded a little. Okay. And training. Emmett will take over the physical parts of your training from here on out. You've already advanced, and he knows more fighting than I do. When you take over this pack when you're older, you'll have to know even more than I do, and he's the perfect one to teach you. I'll teach you everything else when you get back. How long will we be staying? I asked. Roughly around 3 months, give or take a week. I nodded again, looking back at Amber. She looked up at me from the conversation going on between her and everyone else and smiled. Will it be the 4 of us? I asked a little more quietly. Adam nodded yes. I would send more, but I have an idea in mind. And what if they find us? Get the hell out of there and run straight back. If they get too close, kill them. I just raised an eyebrow. The moon goddess gave you some fancy hunter abilities for a reason. Emmett should be able to help you hone in on them. I know the fates are tricky, but they've all seemed to make sense lately. Trust your instinct. Alex, you're an alpha. I get that, I said with a sigh. I'm just worried I won't be able to save her if the time comes. If you're putting your life on the line, how would you not? He growled. I'm worried that even if they get to me first, it still won't be enough. Who said they would get to you first? Worst case scenario. Worst case scenario would be if they got to her first. I scoffed. That would be unreal. I wouldn't let it happen. Are you sure you could do it? I growled at him, feeling Xavier come forth as I stood toe to toe with the other alpha. I was a little surprised that I came up to his height by now, but it only seemed to fuel me. I'm more than sure and would bet my life 1,000 times over that I would be right. It will never happen while I am still around and standing on 2 feet. He just nodded once and left the room. I walked back over to Amber and pulled her off the couch, throwing her over my shoulder. Ignoring her cries of protest, I made my way to our room and set her on the bed. I gave her a low growl and attacked her lips with my own, my hands pulling her closer to me until I was lying over her on the bed. She growled loudly in lust, which only urged me on as I pulled off her shirt and trailed my lips down her neck and between her breasts. But Alex, she moaned, trying to pull back from me. She seemed to fail herself as I didn't even pull her back to me, but kept kissing her smooth skin, my lips running across her stomach. You're mine, I growled. Yes, she breathed heavily. It was still early in the morning, but I didn't care. I rolled over onto my back and pulled her into my arms. At this moment, I just needed to feel the touch and comfort of my mate. Xavier seemed to settle down as he sensed my train of thought. And he did so. Even more, when we were lying comfortably next to each other. What are you thinking about? Amber asked me after a few moments of silence. Oh, really now? Really now? I nodded. I guess I've been worried, to say the least. And Xavier isn't helping. She nodded, then gave me a curious look. How about we go for a run? We haven't been on one together in ages, and I could use the time to let my wolf out. I shrugged and got off the bed, helping Amber up and walking over to the attached balcony, which led downstairs and onto the lawn. Before we reached the stairs, I stopped for a moment, growling softly. What? Amber asked, looking back at me. Her eyes followed my gaze and landed on her chest to where she only had on a black lacy bra. In all honesty, she looked hot without a shirt on. Jeans, sneakers, and that nice little piece there. The only problem was that others would see her like that until we shifted. Hey, she said, putting her hands on her hips. I'd rather not rue another shirt just yet. You still have yet to take me out shopping. I rolled my eyes and went inside, grabbing a smaller blanket. I stepped up to her and wrapped it around her shoulders and led the way downstairs. I was glad I had did so, for a group of guys were on the outside pavilion that was down a small path from the house. They looked up at us, nodded once in respect, and quickly turned their gaze away. Smart. I'm gonna have to ask Paige when we get back how she shifted back with her clothes still on, I said to myself out loud. Amber looked at me. You know. I never thought too much about it until you mentioned it. It might be an ability you could use. If that's the case, it would be handy. In the meantime, let's run, I said, taking the blanket off of Amber's shoulders once we were behind the tree line. When I put it down and started stripping off my jeans and shirt, I looked over to see Amber ogling me. I just stood there for a second, Xavier howling with glee that she seemed to like what I looked like. I knew she did beforehand, but it was still nice to see it. When you're done ogling me, I said, leaving the sentence hanging. Oh, shut up. You've got a nice ass. I can't help it. I smirked, and walked over to her, pulling her back into my chest, and my arms around her waist. You forgot something. Love. W, what would that be? I gently nibbled on her ear before continuing. You still owe me for this morning. With that, I let my hands slide downward and unbutton her pants, letting them fall to the ground. I then roamed my hands along her nearly bare body, She let out such a sexy moan that it had me closer than ever to take her there and then. "Keep that up and we won't be going for a run," Amber moaned, leaning further back into me. I nipped playfully at my mark on her neck, before shifting into my black and gray wolf. Since I was an alpha, my head was nearly at her chest, giving me a clear view of her. I brushed my side against her leg, causing her to help a little. Damn it, Alex, she whined. It almost made it sound like she wanted more. "Oh, well, wit. That's what she got for teasing me so much this morning," I barked playfully, and stepped out as a way of saying let's go. Amber smiled and shifted as well, her silvery white from making her even more beautiful than I thought possible. "Let's go," she said through our link. I ran on, glancing to my side to see her running right there with me. I brushed my side against hers every now and then, smiling widely. I needed that run more than I ever thought possible. We had made it almost all around the territory, getting waves here and there from fellow pack mates as well as the friendly barks and greeting from those in wolf form. I had never felt so powerful before, knowing that this would soon be my pack. I felt powerful, grateful, hell, even more accepted than I had ever felt in my life. I was a part of something huge. Amber and I had stopped a stream when something caught my ear. I looked over at Amber, but she didn't seem to hear anything either, thinking it was just my imagination. I went to continue taking a drink, but stopped myself. Last time I thought that same thing. It bit me in the ass. Hard. I lifted my head up high, turning my ears a little, trying to pick up the sound again. I was glad I did so. It sounded a little bit like whimpering, but from more like a pup. Now, what would a pup be doing out here? "Alex, where are you?" Jack yelled through the link. "By the stream near Carnit Village." "Why?" I heard a sigh of relief. "Okay, you're far from it. But there's been a border breach directly south of you guys. You're pretty far from it, so there isn't too much worry there. And the guards have it under control." "Rogues," I guessed. "You'd be right." Tobias spoke. I was a little startled to hear him through the link, as he wasn't a part of our pack, though a few of them were driven from their pack by rogues. They still smell like a pack. A few seem to be. I'll explain when we get back." "All right. Be back in 10, I announced. I turned to look at Amber, who had finished drinking, and lay peacefully on the bank, overlooking the water. I took a step towards her and prodded her shoulder with my muzzle. "We have to go." She looked at me, confused. "What? Why did something happen?" I nodded. "Just got a link from Jack and Tobias. There was a breach in the border south of here. They said it's under control, but we still need to head back." She nodded, standing up and stretching. At times like this, I really just wished we were a couple of normal werewolves, not a pair of soon-to-be alphas. I now love. Where would be the fun in that? Amber shook her head in amusement. "Come on, let's go see what all the fuss is about." I nodded once in agreement and to follow her when I heard the small whine again. I stopped and looked around again. "What's up?" Amber asked. "Don't you hear that?" "Hear what?" I looked around a little, my fingers constantly twitching to try to pick up where the noise was coming from. I followed it across the small stream, and over some brush. Amber kept looking at me like I was crazy, but I knew something was around here. Xavier was quiet, but I could feel that he was also alert. He knew as much as I did that something was making that noise. We kept walking a little further when Amber spoke up. "I hear it now, too," she said softly. "It's really faint, but I hear what sounds like a pup whimpering." I nodded. "That's what I've been hearing." We kept walking along, me leading the way as it got a little louder. Just barely, but just enough to be sure where the source of the sound was. I heard Amber growl as we got closer, the smell of blood heavy in the air. It kept both of us on edge, neither one daring to make a sound. I ducked under a little more growth before I saw it. There was blood everywhere. Fur, blood, bodies, and utter horror. I growled darkly. Amber stepping even closer to my side to the point where she was almost hiding underneath me. What in the name of the moon goddess happened? She whimpered. I shook my head. Just by the smell. I knew that rogues had been the ones to do this. Luckily, none of the bodies here were pack mates. They must have been what Tobias was talking about. But how on earth did they get so far into our territory? I looked around the destruction when my ears picked up that small whimpering sound yet again. I took a step closer to a mangled body and blinked a couple of times before I realized what I was seeing. A small pup, that looked like it had barely opened its eyes, was snuggled next to the dead form of a female wolf. It had to have been the poor thing's mother. I leaned down and licked the top of its blood-stained head. It whimpered a little louder and looked up at me. Xavier seemed to know exactly what he was doing, for he took over enough to make a small purring-like noise and nuzzle the pup's head. Buddha almighty. That's not what I think it is. Is it? Amber asked in utter awe. I nodded just a little. Sadly, it is. I kept nuzzling the pup's head gently, and it slowly began to stop whimpering. Not knowing what else to do, I picked it up by the scruff of its neck and pulled it away from its deceased mother. I trotted to a nearby stream that we had passed and set it down next to it. Amber quickly followed and sat next to the pup in a protective way, nuzzling its head a little. It's male, that's for sure, she said softly. I looked back at the pup, then nudged him toward the water's edge. We need to wash him up before we bring him back. Don't exactly think it would be best if we brought a blood-covered pup right into the pack house, I said. Amber nodded, before leaning over and lapping up the water, then pouring it awfully over the pup's head and licking him softly. She did this over and over in such a way that it looked like she did it every day. She will make an excellent mother to our pup someday, Xavier said with the happiest growl I had ever heard from him. I laughed at his growl but nodded to him. Bet she will be. When Amber was finished, and the pup looked better, she picked him up by the scruff of his neck and flicked her tail to signal me to follow her. I quickly obliged and was close to her side the whole way back. This is going to be a hard one to explain now. How's that one for a twist in things? I have officially found out what I'm going to do. It's like this story is practically writing itself. Anyway, thanks for reading. K.E.E. Drick. Thank you all so much for joining me on this dangerous werewolf journey. I hope you had your hearts pumping and your minds racing. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and come back for more exciting and dangerous tales. Until next time, stay safe and keep that adventurous spirit alive.